Hi everybody, it's me. As you're well aware, I'm not going to be in for the next few days, so I am starting off with a recording, as I talked about yesterday. We're going to be looking at technical theater, which we've been doing a lot of acting, we've been doing stuff that is all performance-based, but without the tech, you can't really have a full show. Tech is everything that isn't a performer. Now, if you're watching my eyes, you may see my eyes go back and forth because I'm either looking at the video or looking at the sheet that I'm actually going to be following along with. So in front of you should be a sheet called the Tech Video Worksheet. It should have two sides, a front and a back, so please make sure you follow along. What's going to happen is while this video is going on, I will be explaining about technical theater and I will tell you when the answers are. So you just need to listen very carefully. Now, there will be a lot of other interesting and important information, but if you're looking to purely fill out the worksheet for your grade, listen to when I say, this is an answer to a worksheet question. So let's start. I'm going to answer the first question right now. Technical theater is made up of four main disciplines. They are set design, lighting design, sound design, and costume design. I'm going to repeat those so that you can get them again. So tech theater is made up of four disciplines: set design, light design, costume design, sound design. And I probably just said those in different orders. I apologize for that. So we're going to start by talking about set design. So set design, again, answer time. Set design is how they create what the actors interact with on stage. Set design is how they create what the actors interact with on stage. This includes the furniture, the physical set, and the props. Again, the furniture, physical set, and the props. So basically anything that the actor can touch, stand on, sit on, stand next to is considered set. If you take a look at where I am right now, which is the basement of my house pretty much, you'll notice that I'm sitting in a chair. That's part of the set design. There's a rug on the floor. That's part of set design. The doors behind me are both part of set design. All of these things, if we were building a set of my house, these are things that you would have in them, on them, something to that effect. But it's all the stuff that as an actor you can interact with and go in and out of, sit on, do whatever. Now, props, next answer, number 3, props are anything the actors can hold in their hands. Repeat, props are anything the actors can hold in their hands. So, anything that you touch that you can pick up. So, my keyboard, the remote to the TV I use as a monitor, random dry erase markers. Those are props because I can hold them in my hand. That's the big difference between a piece of set and a prop. For example, this chair I can technically hold in my hand. I could lift it up, but it's a set piece because I can sit on it. But, you know, I can't sit on this umbrella. I can hold it in my hand, I can pick it up, I can use it. I'm not going to open it in my own house, but that's another story. But the props are what we hold in our hands. Now, a set designer looks at a bunch of different things when they are designing their set. They look at what is the most important stuff. They look at what the script requires. For example, there's a play called Noises Off that is a British comedy that one of the big things is there are an absurd amount of doors on the stage. I think there's something like 9 doors, but each one is used. So a set designer, while looking at that script, has to say, oh, I need all these doors, because if I don't, the actors won't be able to do what they need to do. Other things set designers consider is where exactly the play takes place. So for example, if you've got a play that takes place in multiple locations, the set designer has to take that into account, because you can't just design one set that works for all the locations in a lot of cases. You have things that'll move in and out, you'll have things that represent different areas on the stage. And that is set design in a nutshell. I know that seems a little rushed, but you'll get some practice on set design a little bit later. Now, moving on, lighting design. So lighting design deals with light, and what that lighting designer has to do is they have to consider a few things. So this is the answer to question number 4. The things that a lighting designer should consider are the time of day and year that the scene is taking place, the location of the scene, and the emotion in the scene. So let's take a look at those 3 things. Time of day and year. This is really important because, as you are well aware, just living your life, you know that the sun comes up in the morning and goes down in the evening. Now, depending on where you are and what time of year it is, that can change. As we are aware, as it's getting darker much, much earlier, and we're, getting out of school at 2:30 and it's dark half an hour later, we see that if it's winter, we're going to have a darkness earlier, and that darkness is deeper. When we're looking at the time of day, sunrise looks a lot different than sunset, and the lighting designer has to take that into account. The next thing is the location. So if you're doing a play that takes place inside a school, that type of lighting is different than if you're doing a play that takes place outside. Outside, you have things like the sun, street lamps if it's dark out, car headlights, if that is something that happens to be going by. There are all sorts of little things that can be done there. And lastly, we're going to look at the emotion of a scene, because a lighting designer can use light to enhance emotion. Famously, there's a scene in Romeo and Juliet, a play by William Shakespeare, that takes place on a balcony at night. It's called the balcony scene because it takes place on a balcony. And it's one of the most famous pieces of theater in the English language. And the question ends up being, like, if you are lighting that scene, what are the colors you use? Now, traditionally, you use what would be called cooler colors, blues, whites, purples to kind of go with nighttime. But you could also sneak some reds and pinks because the scene is all about Romeo and Juliet falling in love, and red and pink are typically love emotion colors. I mentioned something a second ago, cold, cool colors. There are 2 types of colors when it comes to temperature. There's warm colors and cool colors. Now, warm colors are colors like oranges, yellows, reds, things that evoke heat and other such. Ambers are also one, and amber is one that we typically use to create normal light. But then there's cool colors, blues, purples, greens, all these ones that evoke nighttime cool emotions. And when you're looking at those 2, that can really change how things go. So, for example, let's say you're doing a scene that's set in the middle of the day and you're dealing with, let's say, clowns. Why not? So if a clown, in your vision, is meant to be there to make children happy, you might choose warmer colors in order to enhance the idea that they are happy, it's warm, it's exciting, it's fun. But if the characters in the scene are completely terrified of clowns, then you're probably going to use different colors. You're not going to use these warm, happiness-evoking colors, right? Right. So, next answer, number 5, lighting designers attempt to create mood and atmosphere. I'll repeat that. Lighting designers attempt to create mood and atmosphere. And that's what I'm talking about, those warm and cool colors and various color choices. So again, if you've got a scene that's very romantic, you're going to choose colors that kind of evoke that, those rich purples, reds, pinks, things that scream typical Valentine's Day love. If you've got jealousy, again, we talk about green is jealousy color, so you're going to use those greens. Or if your setting is in a forest, you might use greens to illustrate light coming through the trees. Lighting design can do a lot about what we do. And one of the things you've got is this idea of You're lighting not necessarily the exact scene. You know, if you're set, say, a school, you don't want necessarily the cold, clinical white lights that we get from the fluorescent lamps, but you want to light the emotion of that scene. All right, we're going to move on to sound design, and this is another answer, number 6. We're moving pretty quick here. And number 6, sound design also creates mood and atmosphere. Again, sound design also creates mood and atmosphere. They do it through, well, sound. With lights, obviously, you've got all the colors you can work with, different intensities of lights, depending on what you're looking at. But with sound, you're using what we hear to create that mood and atmosphere. So again, difference between, say, New York City, where there's constant noise, always cars and people and horns honking and various things happening. Compare that to the middle of a field at night. There's nothing. There's crickets chirping, maybe. But when you're looking at sound, you're creating that environment based on what we hear. And the sound designer takes the environment of the play that they know from reading the script and what the set designer has put together, and they use sound to enhance that. Their job is not to create something brand new, unless that's what the script calls for, because there are, on occasion, things that we call soundscapes, where literally the entire story is being told through sound. But their job primarily is to enhance what we see and enhance the mood and atmosphere that the lighting designer and set designer have started creating. Now, I'm going to pause and stop talking for about, 60 seconds. Answer number 7 by taking a moment to list 3 sounds you hear in your everyday life. Go. 30 seconds have passed. You have 30 seconds left. Ten seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and time's up. So, hopefully you were able to list a handful of things, whether those are what we call continuous sounds, meaning sounds that will last for a very long time. Think, again, New York City with its constant buzz of people and traffic, or individual sounds. Things like the slamming of a door, a clock alarm going off, a car honking singularly outside of your house, a firework, things like that. Now, on to the last area of design, which is costumes. Now, answer number 8. Costume design handles anything the actors wear. Costume design handles anything the actors wear. This includes clothes, hair, and makeup. Again, that includes clothes, hair, and makeup. Now, when you look at that, you may think, hair and makeup, what? But that is part of our costume design. So obviously for a male, hair design is probably not going to be a huge deal. But if you look at actresses or anybody with long hair, you've got to figure out what to do with that. Is that character somebody who would wear their long hair in a ponytail, in a bun? Would they just let it all flow free? For the men, do they grow out their beard? Do they keep these mutton chops like I've got, or do they have to shave them off? Things like that are very important. Now, with stuff like beards, you can actually add on. There are lovely little things that you can glue on fake mustaches or beards. You can also add in hair extensions if a character calls for long hair and the actor that was hired doesn't. There's also the makeup, which, again, is not a huge deal. It's meant to accentuate. Now, you can actually create old age using makeup. So there's one of the things you can draw in as you kind of get older. You'll start to notice little lines appearing in your face. By adding into those, you can make people look older. You can also do things like create bruises and cuts and injuries. One of my favorites to do is you can do a very quick black eye and have a very convincing one for stage done in about 20 seconds. And those are the kind of things a costume designer looks at. Now, in some cases, hair and makeup are handled by a different person, but for most theater you'll do, costume design also covers that. Now, the biggest thing for the costume designer is what people wear. So and this is answer number 9, like lighting design, costume designers have to consider things like the time of day and year, the location of the play, and in a difference from lighting design, movement. So I'll repeat those 3. The first, A, is the time of day and year, B is the location, and C is movement. Now, let's take a look at why those are important for costume design. Time of day and year. If it's the middle of the night, people are probably going to be wearing pajamas compared to the middle of the day where they're wearing whatever they're going to work or school in. Also, time of year. If it's the middle of winter, you're not going to be wearing a swimsuit unless you're one of those crazy people taking a polar plunge. But you're going to be wearing larger coats, sweaters, sweatshirts, big heavy jackets, boots, not shoes. So time of day and year makes a huge difference. Location also makes a huge difference, because when you take a look at where the play takes place, that also influences what people wear. So for example, currently, while I'm recording this on November 11th, it's about to snow tomorrow. However, in Florida, it's 80 degrees right now. So if we're doing Florida in the wintertime, that's very different than here in New England in the wintertime. So people would obviously dress differently. Something else that I didn't mention in the list of things in terms of time is the time in terms of what year it is. While men's fashion hasn't changed much in the last 100 to 150 years, women's fashion has. And if you do a play that's set 50 years ago, you're going to have very different looks for people. If you do a play that's set 100 years ago, that's going to look different. 200 years ago is going to be even further different. If you set a play in 1776, and there actually is a play called 1776 that's set in 1776, you're going to be wearing colonial American attire. And so looking at what year it is also a huge deal for a costume designer. Last, but certainly not least, the movement is something that costume designers need to consider. And what I mean by that is, what are the actors going to be doing in this costume? So, for example, are the actors going to just be walking and moving very normally? If so, your costumes don't have to be built very different. You could probably just go to the store and get them. But if your actors are going to be running and jumping and tumbling and throwing things around and fighting, you have to make sure they can move, and move safely and effectively. So if somebody's climbing up things, they can't be in a very tight, restricting suit. They have to be in something that they can move in. And all of these things are really important to the costume designer because, again, they're the ones who not only have to put everything together, but if something rips or tears, they have to fix it. So they might as well get it right on the first try. Now, last thing, number 10. Designers must work together. Designers must work together. Like the actors in a show, designers work as an ensemble and share responsibility for the success of a show. So when we look at design, there are the 4 designers: set, lights, sound, costumes. All four of them must work together to create an overall design for the show. For example, I'll talk about something from my college. The first show I ever did, we were getting ready to paint a set, and we were going to paint the inside of this ladies' hat shop bubblegum pink, kind of like my sweater here. And we're gonna paint this thing bubblegum pink, but the set designer goes down to talk with the costume designer and say like, hey, I just want to check out, see what you're making for costumes for the characters in this scene, because I'm looking at painting it this way. And here's the thing, you don't want to put an actress in a bubblegum pink dress in front of a bubblegum pink wall, because they disappear, they become a floating head. And when the set designer walked into the costume shop, she noticed on a dress form the beginnings of a bubblegum pink dress that was already about 50% constructed. And she looked at the costume designer and said, hey, so who's that for? And the costume designer told her it was for the owner of the hat shop. Well, the scenic designer goes, oh, so I cannot paint the hat shop bubblegum pink because our hat shop owner will disappear. So she came back to us and was like, okay, guys, we're changing the painting. We got to do a different color now. And that's the kind of thing. And again, same basic concept. Lighting designer is always talking to the costume and set designer, making sure that the lights don't turn, because colors mix weird. We don't want to make that bubblegum pink dress look brown by lighting it in a bad way. And we don't want to make the set look ugly because we've lit it a weird way, unless that's the goal that they're going for. Because, yeah, sometimes your goal is to make things look horridly bad. Not usually, but it's a possibility. So that's kind of the brief overview of design. Now, the next thing that we're going to be doing, and the next thing you're going to be doing, is the sub is now going to hand out a sheet that says Tech Project Brainstorm. Technical Theater Project Sheet Brainstorm Session. You're going to pair up, and yes, pairs, only 2 people. If there's an uneven number, there will be 1 group of 3, not any more or less. You're going to write your names on that sheet. You're going to get a location card from the deck, from the Ultimate Improv card deck. Write down your location and hand that card back. And then you have 4 things that you're going to need to answer. Each one of these 4 sections has 5 things that you'll list, and each one corresponds to one of the 4 areas of design. 5 things you can see. This is for lighting. Now, I want to make something clearer on this. The 5 things you can see, I don't want you to actually list 5 things you can see, like physically see. So for example, if we were doing, say, my house, I can physically see this keyboard. That's not going under the 5 things you can see. What's going under there is what type of lighting am I dealing with? Is it harsh light? Is it a calm, cool light? Is it warm light? Think about what time of day it is going to be at this location. That's up to you. There's no right or wrong answer on that. If you decide that this is going to be in the middle of the day, list that. Tell us it's in the middle of the day. What you want to think about is not physical sight, but rather emotional sight. So is it happy? Are you using warm colors? Is it sad? Are you using cold colors? That kind of thing. The next is 5 things you can hear at this location. That one's really simple. Just think about what you would hear at that location. List 5 of them. 5 things you can touch. This is set. So 5 things you can touch. Things like, if you're on a mountain, maybe you're touching a rope that you're using to climb. Maybe you are, on a ledge. Things like that. If you're in an office, a chair is something you can touch. Things like that. That one's going to be very important because of what you're going to do after the brainstorm. But 5 things you can touch. And then last but not least, 5 things people are wearing. This is, again, costumes. So one of the things I don't want you to do is don't just go shoes, socks, pants, whatever. Think about where you are. So again, using that mountain location, if you're high up on the mountain, you might be wearing thicker winter clothes because it's cold up there. Again, like with the lighting one, consider what time of day and what time of year it is. Because again, if you decide in your head that you're on this mountain in the middle of winter, that might change things. All right? On the back of that sheet, there is nothing to actually do. It's just a reminder of what I've just said. All right? So it's just everything I've pretty much just said, but as a reminder. After that, when everything is done on that, you will have a sketch sheet to complete. All the instructions are on the sketch sheet. You'll be doing set and costumes on that sketch paper. That may not get done today. You will have today and tomorrow to finish all of this up, so don't worry. Today should be focused on the brainstorming. If you finish the brainstorming, then yes, you'll start on the sketch sheet. If you do not finish the brainstorming, that's okay too. You'll be able to finish it tomorrow. All right? So, if you have any questions about tech or are more interested in technical theater or design, be sure to ask me when I get back. I'm more than happy to talk more in depth about it. But this has been the basics of set design. Well, all design. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you again. We'll see you when I get back from